Hello Livewires, Heather Boyd Wire here, and today I'm doing a little recap video from my live stream about selling jewelry. We just wrapped up the 10-day wire earrings to make and sell challenge. I'm going to link up all the tutorials in the description below this video. On the live stream, I was answering some questions about selling jewelry. I put all the information in my earrings to make and sell ebook. The link to purchase the book is in the description below this video. In it, you will find templates, materials, jig templates, and all kinds of other resources for making and selling jewelry. Be sure to use the coupon code SAVE25 when you purchase any 5 templates or ebooks in my Etsy DIY shop. Comment below with any of your questions about making or selling jewelry. If you guys don't already know, I've been making wire jewelry for 35 years. And when I first started making jewelry, I actually was making little hand painted buttons, and they were just, I would take old publicity badges and I would remove the plastic, and then I would put fabric like canvas on them, and I would paint them, and I would sell them on the streets of Montreal. And that's when I got started selling things on the street. And then I gradually, would buy some beads, some wire, different things. And then I started selling jewelry. And then I met my husband, who was making wire bicycles. And then I just like flew with it. So wire was my medium. I love drawing. So it was always, it was meant to be that I picked up the wire, and then I've just gone from there. And we basically paid our mortgage making wire wedding cake toppers on Etsy. So it's a great story, and there's so much potential. We used to do a lot of shows. Mostly we're selling online now, but I know a lot of people do craft shows, and that's a great thing to do too. But I had some questions in the group about selling, so I thought I would just like go over those a little bit quickly. So PETA in the 10-day challenges group asked me that $1 million question: what is the best seller, best thing to sell at I guess shows and online? And you guys, please feel free to put your feedback in the comments. People will be able to watch the replay comments after the live video is processed. But the answer that I had to that question was, when I was doing shows, rings would sell really well, like super well, especially if you had them at affordable prices. Like we had some at $5, some at $10. Really depends on the materials you're using. But the only issue we used to have at craft shows was we had a lot of people, especially young people, not just young people, those stealing rings. So that's an issue too when you're doing shows, is with theft. So you can like put them under plexiglass or in cases or things like that. So there's always solutions, but that's what we found, that rings sold really, really well at shows. You just have to be a bit careful about them. But then the second best seller that I would say is definitely the earrings. At shows and on Etsy, I find that people just love unique earrings. And when I first started selling wire jewelry on the street, basically I was the earring lady, rather than the wire lady. That was my thing back in the day. So back in the 90s, I even had t-shirts that were saying earring lady and all that type of thing, and my catalogs and all that stuff. And so that was what I sold, was just mainly earrings. Honestly, I wasn't doing necklaces, I wasn't doing pins, I wasn't doing bookmarks at the time. Now I make more of those things. But definitely the earrings were a big hit back then. And in the 90s, people loved those mixed matched ones, say like 2 different earrings, 2 different sizes. And that's kind of coming back in style too. But I do like kind of a throwback to that when I do the sun and moon earrings, boy girl earrings, music note treble clef earrings. So those are really fun. Depending on your market, they're really fun earrings to sell. So yeah, so earrings to me, I would say, are another great seller too. It's also good to, have a lot of stock, especially if you're doing a craft show. And even if you have an online shop, it's good to have a lot of variety, but not too much. And you don't want to confuse people too much too, especially if you're like always Always the kiosks I used to admire at shows were ones that were very streamlined and really had a very clear image of what they were selling, type of thing. So you don't want to stuff your table with all kinds of like random stuff, but definitely keep it streamlined and find your own style, because there's a lot of people sell similar jewelry all the time. So if you could differentiate yourself with your branding, with your color palette, with your display, and make it a reflection of who you are. So, I mean, this is a whole topic that we could go like on and on and on about. There's so many things that make people unique, that make people resonate with their brand. If we're talking just about products in general that sell well, there definitely are things. And then like at Christmas time, I would sell more bookmarks. I would sell more like tree ornaments and things like that. So sometimes it's seasonal, really depends on what you're doing. And then for us personally, we make custom wedding cake toppers. So we really honed in on our niche and found, and that was thanks to a customer. Like a customer had seen one of Mark's little wire bikes, and she said, "Oh, we bought it, we put it on our wedding cake." And that's when we had that light bulb moment, okay, about how we can market our things so that they'll be interesting, because people weren't buying just the little bikes, but when they realized it had a function as a wedding cake topper, then things took off. And that's mostly what we do now, is we do custom wedding cake toppers. So if people they could send me a sketch, I could do something different. And if you can do custom work, especially at a craft show, I found that helped us a lot. So I brought my beads, I brought my wire. So if somebody said, "Oh, I want that one, but with that color, or this one in that size." So if you do have time, if it's doable for you, I would suggest that's a great way to kind of get things rolling as well, to offer custom orders. And my philosophy has always been the customer is always right. So if they have an idea and they want you to try it, even if it sounds a little weird, it's always a good idea to give it a shot. And then you learn in the process. You might surprise yourself. When do you know your items are good enough to sell? Well, that's another $1 million question. When I first started making jewelry, definitely my craftsmanship was super wonky. My materials were terrible. When I first started selling jewelry, I remember I used to go to vintage shops or just secondhand stores, and I remember even garage sales, and I would buy like old crystal necklaces and stuff. And I remember at one point I was actually making jewelry with old bike parts, because I studied fine art at university. And I was doing, I did a sculpture project. And what I did was I took apart my bicycle, and then I put it back together in a form of a sculpture. Like it created like this dragon type thing out of my bicycle. But then I had all these leftover bolts and pieces and stuff. So I brought those with me when I went to live in Toronto after, and then I came to Montreal, and I brought all these bike parts, right? So one of the first pieces of jewelry that I ever made was I had bought some random pieces of bracelets and things with these crystals on it. And so I had very, very limited tools. I think I had some little pliers from the hardware store with the teeth on them, what you're not supposed to use to make jewelry, and maybe some like terrible wire cutters, and just crappy wire from the hardware store. And I remember I took the wire, and I think I made a bracelet, I think it was. And so I took the crystals and bolts from my bike, like random bolts, and I made this bracelet. So bicycle bolts, crystals, and a little makeshift clasp for it. And I was selling at the jazz festival in Montreal, and we had it was on St. Denis Street. So I set up. I used to come down on my bicycle. It was ridiculous. Had all my stuff on the back of the bike. So I come up. Everybody had been like reserving their spots in this park overnight. Like they would literally sleep in the park overnight, so they wouldn't lose their spot at the Jazz Fest. I would come up on my bike. I just like bam, set up my stuff on the edge of a little cement thing there. And I had like a blanket. I'll put a picture in at some point. So I had all my really weird looking buttons. And then I put out some earrings and this bracelet made with this old crystal. And this lady came up, and she looked fairly wealthy. And she's just like, I'll buy it type of thing. And I think I only sold it for $5 or something, but she loved it. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, you could sell almost anything. And it really encouraged me because at that time I was making, I think, $3 on a good day selling my buttons. And then when I sold that piece, I'm like, jewelry is the way to go. So that's the way to actually, be able to sell things, because my other stuff was a little too artsy and weird. So that was a great story, but the workmanship was bad. The beads were bad. The beads were good. The beads were good, but the workmanship wasn't great, and the materials, wire and stuff, was bad. But just to say, you have to start somewhere, right? And you have to dare to put it out there. Someone might love it. So if you don't try, you'll never know. So I would say your work is ready to sell anytime. There's no risk in trying, and definitely show it to your friends. You could bring jewelry to some local coffee shops will take jewelry on consignment. There's lots of ways to get it out there. I mean, Etsy is a vast sea of so many vendors. But if you just want to try Etsy just to get your feet wet, to try to make a little site on Etsy just to see how it goes. Even if you don't sell anything, it's not a huge expense. But I always recommend people try Etsy, even though I know there's a lot of people that aren't Etsy fans. So out of the box thinking. Yes, 100% out of the box thinking. That's me. Yeah, I live very much outside of that box. Great advice. So many tastes. Yeah, exactly. You just never know. And one person's trash is another person's treasure. One of my favorite pieces of artwork, I'm just looking at it now. It's I was at the post office once and shipping some stuff, and this girl that worked there, she knows I'm an artist. So she went to the back and she brought up this painting that one of her clients had given her. And he was so proud. He made her this painting, and it actually is more to mixed media. So it's got a painted background and then little flowers. I don't know there, it's on the wall. It's hard to see, but that's the painting. And it's got fake flowers on it, artificial flowers. And it literally has a tack stuck in it. Most people would find it tacky, but I loved it. I just love it. It's one of my favorite pieces of art. And the reason I love it, first of all, it's kind of cool looking. And second of all, the passion that the artist put into it. Oh my goodness. I didn't even meet the guy. And I know I could tell, I could feel the passion that went into it. And just the way the girl described how excited he was to give it to her, and she was going to throw it in the trash, and I'm like, no. So I saved it, and it's on my wall now. So that's definitely, literally, one person's trash is another person's treasure. We just never know. Is it expensive to start selling? Well, that really depends on, I guess, where. But like I said, if you want to try a platform like Etsy, they charge per listing, and then they do take a percentage. But it's not like you have to pay someone to start a website. I mean, there's Shopify and things like that, but those are monthly memberships, and they're a lot more expensive. But say if you just want to get your feet wet, I would recommend something like that. Maybe local craft shows. Usually craft shows in church basements and stuff aren't expensive. And like I said, they're not necessarily places you're going to sell a lot, but you're going to get your feet wet, and you never know. You just never know. I met a guy selling in a church basement, but he was selling very unique wool glued onto canvas, and I discovered him in a church basement, and I would have never known about his art. And he does a lot of really amazing things and other shows and stuff like that. And he wrote a book. I bought his book and all this stuff. So you just never know. And it's just meeting people, getting out there, meeting other artisans. And so I would suggest doing small things like that. Little local sales in schools. And like I said, maybe putting things on consignment in a coffee shop or something. I would just say, just go for it. And my philosophy has always been start by starting. In fact, I used to have a blog called Start by Starting. And basically it was all about that. It's just, you've got nothing to lose, right? And if you don't try, you'll just never know. So I would start small. I wouldn't invest a lot of money at first. I would just basically, you want to see what is going to sell well. You also want to develop your own style, your own unique style. And so while that is the process, I wouldn't invest too much money in even necessarily super fancy equipment and all that type of thing. You could take decent photos with your telephone as well, with your cell phone. So yeah, just start and just just keep going with it for sure. So grow as you go. I love that. That is so good. That's a great quote. Yeah, that's a great quote. I'm going to write that down, Marian. I love that. Amazing. Beautiful. If you have any other questions about selling, just email me at heatherboydwire@gmail.com. I would be more than happy to answer your questions about making jewelry, about selling jewelry, and look out for the next 10-day challenge that will be coming in the fall of 2024. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you the next time.